The most wonderful boy in the world would be you. So how's the dragon hunting going, Nick? Right. We are live, so don't say anything incriminating. Volume too low. Yes, that's why. Everything okay over there? Remember how you were little, Mom used to do Nicholas Days? You know what we should do? We should do a Mommy Day. I was thinking maybe I could get some stuff that she can eat. We can bring her breakfast and bread. Maybe if we have beautiful weather, which we might, we could do something like out in the backyard that would be pretty. Like maybe a meal or something. We could set up a little hangout area with like iced tea and... Oh, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of things that we could do to show Mom some love, you know? Excellent. Alright. Let's do this. Sometime. There we go. slower. That could have been quite a bit faster. Glitch in the last turn. Hello, my son. Progress being made. Are you rocking the 2-minute sword now? I haven't tried them yet. They say heavy load.
Well, so the heavy load is so you can manage just by using the buttons. Heavy load is equivalent.
So it does unequipped other weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't have boost on it.
Right.
Not want to be heavy load.
Okay. Very good noise, bad.
Ominous Bluestone Crown. What the fuck is that?
Nick, how do I look? Okay, can you take a picture of me with the... Let me turn the light on. No, I meant the highlight. The brighter light. Let me have my phone. I need to have my driving gloves on. Hang on. Hold up. Now do it nicely, because it's for publication. Alright, I drive. You take a nice picture of me. They have to be nice. Maybe take a little movie. I want to show off Alan's cool hat. Alan makes very cool clothing. This is his hat for House of 100. I also got the pants, and they're very cool. Thank you. You're a very nice boy. How many dragons have you killed tonight? Your dragon fighting is impressive. In Dark Age of Camelot, we used to have things called dragon raids. So there was a zone that at the very far end of it had the dragon. And the zone was a real pain in the ass because everything had massive aggro radius. And they were all like deep purple mobs, you know? Deep. So really, the dragon fight was the only way to get what are known as full respec stones. So in Dark Age of Camelot, every time you got what was known a realm rank, which is basically a level from PvP, you got a point that you could apply towards... Basically, you had these extra abilities called realm abilities that opened up, I believe. And anyway, you went realm rank, I guess 1 through 12, I guess ultimately it was, or 10, I can't remember. But over the course of it, the realm rank abilities were really, really powerful, like really useful stuff. And very much defining of the class. So, you know, you had your character's regular abilities, and then you had these realm abilities, which gave you additional functionality and were really cool. Yeah, anyway, so you would have to go kind of Zerg the dragon, get a large group of people together and kill him, like a really large group of people, like 50, 100, something like that, if I recall correctly. So originally it was really hard, and then they put these characters in the game called animists. And animists were a type of caster that casts living mushrooms. And the mushrooms, yeah, they're either offensive or defensive, but mostly offensive. And in classic game style, they were a little broken in that as an animist you could spawn, let's say, originally 10 mushrooms. Yeah. No, as an animist you could originally spawn, I think, as many mushrooms as you had mana ability, right? But the thing is, through realm abilities, potions, etc., you could basically, chance, etc., you could basically get really fast regen, kind of, on mana, if I recall correctly. So, as an animist, if you botted, you could just go out and spam a ton of these low-level mushrooms that didn't hit hard, but you had enough of them that they would break to hit code on the really hard mobs. So these mobs that normally would resist everything, when they're being attacked by 20 small mushrooms going ticky ticky ticky, they were getting hit enough that it would get through the code, and then it would open them up to damage, and then blam, you could kill them. So imagine what would happen when you had 30 animists basically spamming mushrooms. Well, you could kill anything in the game. And in fact, you could kill things that you weren't supposed to be able to kill. So one of the weekend they finally nerfed the animist, or the week that they finally nerfed the animist, was related to realm combat. So Dark Age of Camelot was primarily a game based around 3 different realms: Hibernia, which I guess is supposed to be Ireland, Midgard, which I guess is supposed to be Norse mythology, and then Albion, which I guess is supposed to be Old English mythology, like King Arthur and that kind of stuff. Anyway, so you would have these frontiers. The frontiers were the areas where, imagine it's the shared zone between 3 different zones, the 3 different territories, and that's where you would go to fight each other. Because there were these outposts out in these zones, and if you controlled the outposts, enough of them, you got Darkness Falls, which was a dungeon in each zone that also was a PvP dungeon, that there was an entrance in each zone, and they all kind of shared it. So you'd get Darkness Falls, and Darkness Falls would allow you to go farm these materials that were really useful, that everyone needed and wanted. So people in the realm doing PvP would go out and try to get enough keeps to open up Darkness Falls. When Darkness Falls switches hands, you don't get booted, but the other guys can come in. So all the assassins and, Zerg teams would come, or 8-man teams would jump into Darkness Falls and run through Albion side. Let's say if they're Alb, they would go through their side, go into the neutral area, and then make their way past all of the big scary monsters that are in the heart of it, and then end up in your zone and then kill all of you, or try to kill all of you, and you'd defend. But pretty much it was inevitable. Once the other team got Darkness Falls, they had endlessly replenishable people, but you couldn't get anyone else in. So eventually Darkness Falls would fall. It was one of my favorite places because I played an assassin that had invisibility, so I would sneak through and go kill other people while they owned the thing. Anyway, with this one weekend, I think there was a huge Hib-Zerg of, I don't know how many people were there, but a lot, maybe 150, 200, something like that, and some ungodly amount of animists came. And the Animus spawn the mushrooms out at the border keeps. So the border keep is where the other zones would zone in, and it's supposed to be utterly unbeatable keep, right? You can't take it. It's just where people zone in, and it's protected by monsters, well, soldiers, technically, wizards, cast archers, and really fast-moving footmen who would one-hit you. But the Animists were able to break the two-hit code on those, and Hibernia took Albion's border keep and locked Albion out of the frontier for some number of hours. And that was unfortunately when they started doing mushroom caps. So it went from the greatest farming character to still a very good farming character, but you now needed to have, two Animus together to really kill shit effectively. And you couldn't do 30 mushrooms anymore. You could only do 10 or something like that. So, but anyway, it was a really great game. It was so cool. The amazing thing is when they started it literally ran off a laptop for like the first month. I remember reading an article about Mythic, and it was like, 5 people in a laptop, and they created probably the best PvP game ever. And all of the subsequent expansions were incredibly ambitious and incredibly cool and changed the game in incredibly meaningful ways, even in ways that people didn't necessarily like, but that were really cool nonetheless. And the game died ultimately, unfortunately, because I think they redid Frontiers. So they did what was called New Frontiers, and they gave this very cool modern take on the Frontiers. Great new graphics, much bigger, etc. The problem was it ended up being way too big, didn't have enough choke points, and ended up being kind of like a pain in the ass. The 8-man teams didn't really like running it because it was too big. The assassins like me, you could spend 2 hours looking for someone to kill and there'd be no one around. Yeah. So that combined with the unbelievable importance of gear and setup and everything else, which involved massive quantities of grinding for rare scrolls and other objects to unlock the weapons and armor that you really wanted. Only the most diehard were able to ultimately hang with it, and then ultimately it just sort of died. But it was amazingly fun. Like early on, there was this period where they introduced elemental damage weapons, and I was one of the first assassins the first group of assassins to figure that part out and start using. I'd carry around 3 sets of weapons that were the same of different elemental damage, and depending upon who I was fighting, I would change resists, and basically you could melt people. It was incredibly fun stuff. You have no idea how hard I had to grind to be. Yeah, that Destiny is a cakewalk compared to what Dark Age of Camelot was. That's not a grind. Destiny's a forced grind. It's like a content grind. Dark Age of Camelot was like, if you want to be powerful, you need to get, scroll number 3 of 3 of this thing that is dropped only from this group of aquatic sea monkeys, and they spawn infrequently, and you're going to spend 4 days doing this. Not 4 sessions, 4 days. But God, Malice, Battler, all these unbelievable weapons with unbelievable procs. So much fun. They had this other great ability that was also kind of broken, which they fixed ultimately. I think it was called Wild Poison. And as Nightshades are class-defining thing as assassins with little dual-wielding dagger, short swordy kind of characters. But we had the benefit of being able to use poisons. So we could make poisons that would either cause damage over time or debuffs. And so like in any game, those work on a percentage to hit basis. And obviously the faster you could swing, so you'd absolutely want to craft your gear so that you would cap swing speed and have bonuses to cap swing speed, so you would get as many chances to proc the poisons as possible. And then with Wild Gift would increase the percentage of the poison proc chance, but it would also be sort of a random percentage increase to damage or effectiveness of the debuff. So I used to run around. There was a period there where just for fun I ran around with Wild Poison 5, which was just too much. You could use the points better elsewhere. Wild Poison 3 was enough. Wild Poison 5 was hilarious because you could hit someone with the dot proc that you got a lucky roll on, and like tick, 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 they're dead. It was so gratifying because there was this element of randomness to it that just made it amazingly fun. Yeah, it's funny, after Dark Age of Camelot, I tried a couple games, like World of Warcraft being the most famous one. I played that for a little while, but I never got into it in the same way. It just didn't quite do it for me, and it was still very cool, but I can't. Can you imagine how much the people who started World of Warcraft, how much money they must have made? It's still going, right? And at its peak, they had, 2 million subscribers? Paying, whatever, $15, $20 a month, and then buying the expansions. Like, if whoever owns that does not have the most expensive sports car collection, his own garage, and a private track, he's a fucking idiot. I think Ken Block did it exactly right. He and Danny Way started a company called DC Shoes. Back when I was at Thrasher, I guess they were sort of at their peak in terms of popularity. And he sold the company at some point. And I think he made like $150 million or more than that. And he got really into, I guess, automobile racing, rally stuff. And then he became like hugely successful. He became successful as a driver, a racer, everything else. But then he did these incredible like car videos called Gymkhana, where he would basically build these insane cars and go do sort of urban stunts, for want of a better term. Drive around in the city doing insane stuff, choreographed, and obviously everyone loved it. It was the real deal. Unfortunately, he died about a month ago in a snowmobiling accident. But if Ken Block was going to have to go anyway, it's a pity he couldn't have died in a snowmobiling accident at 96, but, because I'm sure he's, I think, my age. So I'm sure he had, kids that were your age. But I suspect they're going to be well cared for, his family. I won't go snowmobiling, Nick. And I'll stick to go-karts. Oh, did I mention I'm taking up base jumping? Of course not. Plus, I'm scared of heights. killed who? An Inductor Virgin. Some sort of evil caster thing? Huh. That's an annoying trap. Well, that's not good. It seems to me like you can jump much further on the horse. Well, let me put it this way. On the horse, it seems like you can kind of run halfway down a cliff. Because it's got a double jump, too. So as soon as you can find like something that resembles footing, and you hit a jump, it seems to be okay. Because I've jumped down things on the horse that I couldn't on foot. Okay. Oh, I see. Oh, hey, I read something really interesting. Did I tell you about the cats? Okay, so this came from watching a Reddit video where there's this unfortunate kitty that got himself out into a really untenable position 7 stories up in a building on a wall, and eventually was like, shit, I have nowhere to go, and fell or jumped. And, you know, this cat falls 7 stories to the ground and walks away like nothing happened, right? So this is not faked, apparently. This is the real deal. So it turns out that, I guess last year or the year before, something like that, a group, some sort of pet veterinary group in England did an actual study of this. And they discovered that, yes, cats typically... cats have an extremely, extremely high not only survival rate, but survival rate unscathed of falling 5 or more stories. And in fact, they tend to do even better if they fall 7 or more, 7 or more stories. Yeah. So there were fewer injuries to the kitties that fell 7 plus stories. Well, okay, so first of all, my first thought was, okay, this clearly is because cats are lights, and that, yes, it's true. Their terminal velocity is lower than ours. Still pretty good, but it's definitively lower than ours. But here's the thing, which is when the cat has a long enough fall, they actually start to chill, and kind of do like the sugar glider thing where they relax and their legs they get a little bit more splayed, so that slows them even further. So at around 7 stories is where that starts to happen. Below that, it's more like their reaction is more like, oh shit, and they're super tensed up and arched back and kind of flailing. But they give up after like 5 stories of falling and then chill. So that was an interesting observation, and they tended to do better. The more you know, indeed. I suppose that would not help a lion or tiger, though, if you toss it off a 5-story building, given that their terminal velocity is probably much higher than ours. But yeah, I suspect like if you were to toss a mouse off of the World Trade Center, it would probably survive the fall, right? Because they don't fall that fast, and they're incredibly resilient little bastards that can compress themselves down to almost nothing. Yeah, mice can squeeze through tiny, tiny holes. Yeah. Or at least stuff that's a lot smaller than you think they can. Nice. I wonder how much map there is. What's that?
You oversold this little space. Oh, yay.
Is that a +2 or? Regular is +1. Okay. Okay. I have a somber smithing stone as well, and was not sure what it did. Got it. Yeah, I've got my primaries at +2 so far. What are yours? You just haven't committed. So the weapons themselves don't seem to have necessarily like... You're not going to get like a +3 sword of, you know, goblin smashing. You're just going to get a sword, and then you're maybe going to get some stuff to upgrade whatever you want with, whether that's the sword. Okay, I have not come across that yet. Okay. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, it's the one thing that annoys me is having to take a potion after you've killed some character, you know, some monster, but have only taken one small hit. Like, you don't regen over time at all. Yeah, I like it too because they're always available to you. You don't have to like go farm for them. You just go back to the place and sleep or whatever. Hey, you know that special potion I made? I'm not sure if I have unlimited charges on it, but I've used it 2 or 3 times now. So it replenishes. Yeah, that makes sense. And if I'm not mistaken, you can only carry one type. Or at least right now, I can only seem to be able to carry one type. I've got the capacity to make a couple different versions. Woohoo! Oh, that was so much fun. I just had an awesome moment where my outside tires were on the stripy stuff, my inside were on the dark stuff. So there was the differential of grip, which happened to coincide perfectly with the angle of the turn. So it did this rotation while I was turning. That lasted the entire turn. It's hard to describe. It's like the feeling of these two different forces going in two different directions. You know what I mean? Like when you're going around. Oof. But in the way that only KartKraft can do it, you know, because there's the rubber interactions here are so strong. Too early. What'd you find? Behind it was a dragon. What is in the chest? Oh. Dear whoever finds this letter is cursed. Sometimes you are a genius.
Wait, you can climb ladders faster, right? Interesting. You can also slide down them.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm probably too old and slow for the twitch-based combat. Well, okay, so you have to learn combos. You know how to dodge. Right, so you just got to get past button position.
Yeah. So, like, when I'm doing well, you'll notice I'm not going
Like,
so to start button mashing as well. Can you jump. And sometimes that can be a problem because you'll tap roll like a bunch of times,